everybody, my name's Helen, and today I'm going to do my January wrap-up and my February TBR. So this month was an alright reading month for me. I managed to read 7 books, which is pretty good, but most of them were not rated super high, which is why it was kind of meh. I'm gonna dive right into them. The first book that I read this month was actually an audiobook, and it was Neil Patrick Harris's Choose Your Own Autobiography, and this was awesome. He narrated it. He had some of his friends come in to help. His husband, David Bertka, was in with a portion of it, and it was so funny. The audiobook was fantastic, and it's definitely a great way to read this book, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. The second book that I read this month was Prophecy of the Sisters by Michelle Zink, and this is the story of 2 twin sisters who are prophesized to have something to do with bringing a certain army into our world, kind of thing. And one of them is trying to find the keys to make this happen, and one of them is trying to find the keys so that she can stop it. So they're working from opposite sides trying to get the same item, and it was really interesting in that respect. This is the first book in a trilogy. I own the second book. I'm not sure when I'm going to read it because I do want to know what's going to happen. This one was mostly just building up the prophecy and the story behind it without really diving into the plot. Like, not a lot really happened. And it was pretty slow moving, so I gave it like 2.5 stars. The third book that I read this month was From the Graveyard of the Arousal Industry by Justin Pearson, and this is an autobiography of his life, and he was a singer and a bass player, I believe, for some punk rock bands for quite a while, including like The Locust and Some Girls, and he also has a record label. I thought it was going to be really funny from the chapter headings because they were fantastic, and my friend Colton got this for me for Christmas, by the way, and those are the reason why he bought it for me, because the titles of the chapters were funny, so he thought that I would enjoy it. And it was kind of boring. The guy doesn't really have the best ability for writing. Everything was kind of all over the place, and it was really hard to keep track of what was going on. I gave this book 2 stars, if I'm being generous. The fourth book that I read this month was The Scorch Trials by James Dashner. This is the second book in the Maze Runner trilogy. I went into this with super low expectations and ended up enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would, but this is definitely my least favorite out of the trilogy. I can't really go into the plot, obviously, because of spoilers, but I'm really interested to see how this is going to translate into film. I gave it 3 stars. And of course, immediately after that, I picked up The Death Cure, which is the third and final book. And this book gave me so many feels that I wasn't expecting it to give me, because the only character that I had an emotional attachment to had some pretty nasty things happen to him in this book. That's all I'm going to say about that, because I obviously don't want to spoil this for you guys. I really hope that if The Scorch Trials does as well as The Maze Runner did, and they make this a movie, that they don't split it in half, because I don't think enough happened for it to be split into 2 movies. But I think that this would make a really good movie, and some of the character arcs in this would be so interesting on film. And again, this is a book that I went into having super low expectations, because I know Jeff from Ermagerd Burks really disliked this book, and I know that Jesse, the reader, really didn't like this as a conclusion, so I was expecting not to like it, but I actually liked it quite a bit. I gave it 4 stars. And the next book that I read was Jessica Rules the Dark Side, and this is the second book in the Jessica duology, the first book being Jessica's Guide to Dating the Dark Side, both by Beth Fantaschi. I read Jessica's Guide to Dating the Dark Side a long time ago, like almost 2 years ago, I think, and I did enjoy it. I thought it was a really cute, kind of just fun take on a vampire story. And I've owned this book for quite a while, and I decided it was time to finish off the duologies, so I did. I did enjoy this. It wasn't as quirky, kind of, as the first one, but it was a solid continuation and conclusion to this duology, and I gave this 3 stars. And the final book that I read this month was The Case of the Missing Service by Tarkin Hall. I had to read this for my detective fiction class, and this is the story of Vish Puri, who is an Indian personal investigator, kind of Sherlock Holmes-esque, and he's trying to get this well-known lawyer, who is a very good man, out of jail because he's being blamed for his servant's death, but the lawyer is convinced that she is still alive. And this was interesting, but it was really slow, especially considering it's under 300 pages. I felt like there was so much filler. Oh, it was just so so slow. Like, the parts of the story that moved the plot forward were good and interesting, but there was just so much filler. I would have given this a much higher rating if it wasn't so slow, but I ended up giving this 3 out of 5 stars. And those are the 7 books that I read this month. Now let's move right into my TBR, because this is going to be pretty quick. The very first book that I absolutely am picking up, and like I'm starting it after I edit this video, is Fairest by Marissa Meyer, and this is the prequel to the Lunar Chronicles following Queen Lavanna. I've been waiting for this for so long. I'm super excited to read it. After that, I really want to pick up The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. I did just haul this, it's a new release. I really enjoyed The Coldest Girl in Cold Town, so I want to pick this up right away. The next book that I want to read this month is These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. I've just heard such amazing things about this, and I've been trying to get a hold of it for so long, and I just really want to understand how amazing this is, because so many people like this book. And I am, of course, still reading Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. I'm about 140 pages in. I'm reading it very, very slowly and in very small chunks at a time, reading lots of books in between so that it doesn't slow down my reading, but I'm loving it so far and I can't wait to keep reading it. As I've said in other videos, please don't spoil me for it because I haven't watched any of the show. This is my first time reading the book. Like, I've been really good about not being spoiled about stuff. Please keep it that way. Of course, since it's a TBR video, I have my TBR jar. And the book I picked out is Partials by Dan Wells, so I will also be attempting to read that book this month. And that's it for my wrap-up and my TBR. What did you read this month? What are you planning on reading in February? And have you read any of the books mentioned in this video? Let me know your thoughts and things down below. I do respond to every comment, and I love hearing from you. And I will see you soon with a new video.